So let's talk a bit about planned percentage complete. One of those metrics that is so important and that everybody wants to see on their project, but for some reason it's extremely difficult to find in the software that you use. So you'll find something like Microsoft Project, for instance, does not have a built-in field where you can open up percentage complete, which is weird because it's really not that difficult to create or to customize on your own. And you would think that they'll build this as part of the software because it's quite a great metric to have and to compare with your percentage complete on a project so that we can see whether there's any variance in what we have planned, the planned production versus what we are actually producing in terms of progress. Now, I've seen quite a lot of formulas, quite a lot of videos online that show you a formula. I've looked at those and I must tell you that most of them are actually incorrect. If you look at the way in which MS Project actually uses a bit of a weighted average in terms of rolling up those percentages into higher levels into your works breakdown structure. So in today's video, I'm going to show you some of the wrong way to do it. What are those, some of those formulas that's usually used? And then let's look at the right way in which you can implement it that will give you a more accurate planned percentage complete. All right, guys, let's see how you can put in your percentage complete or the planned percentage complete. Firstly, if you look at my schedule that I've opened up, this is just an example. Very important is the fact that this formula will not work if you haven't followed proper update procedure or processes or principles. For instance, you have to set the status date. You'll see the status date here is set as the 31st of Jan 2019 in this particular project. You have to have your baseline set. So the formula will not work on those tasks that don't have a baseline, and it will certainly not work if you haven't set a status date. So if you're still unsure how to do this, I won't cover the principles of updates in this particular video. So go and watch some of our other videos, or you can join our specific MS Project course for construction and engineering professionals, where we plan this project and I'll show you step by step how to do this project, how to update and do a proper update. So once you are here, you've done your update, your status date is set. What we want to achieve now is we actually want to add a formula in a customized column or a customized field, whereby I want to isolate my baseline or divide it into 3 different categories. The first one is I want to see, in terms of the baseline, which activities should have completed. All right, so that's almost my first category. So if I look at this particular schedule, you'll see everything here on the left-hand side of the time now line. They should have completed. So in other words, they've got completion dates on the left-hand side of time now, meaning they should have completed. They should be 100% complete at this point. Then everything on the right-hand side, in terms of start dates, is something that should not have started. And this is my second category. So I want to understand which of these tasks should not have started based on, again, their baseline dates and where we are now in time. So all these little baselines, forget about the actuals here, the actual red and blue bars. Just focus on these gray bars. So they should have started, should not have started at this stage. They are still in the future in terms of the baseline dates. And then the third one is typically something like this, the cast concrete in the plinth, which is a task in terms of baseline, where you can see it's in progress. So at this point in time where we are, if everything happened as planned, we should have started with this task in terms of the baseline, and there should still be some time remaining. Right, and this is essentially what we want to achieve with our formula. Now let's look at the formula to do this. And I've seen a lot of formulas out there on a lot of blogs, on a lot of videos, and all of them are a typical or different version of this one. This is our own formula. I think it's quite eloquent. You don't have to create a large number of different custom fields to do this one. It's quite basic, and it works in 3 ways, or it does 3 tests. So we essentially want to see, firstly, whether, and this is the first part of the formula, to test to see if a task should have completed already by the status date. And that is the if function there. So we're asking if the estimated finish, the baseline estimated finish date, is less than or equal to the status date, it means that on the baseline, in terms of our plan, this should have completed. So this should be 100% complete if we want to do a planned percentage complete. The second test that we're going to do there, so if the answer to this one is false, it moves to the second phase of the test, and then we ask whether the baseline start date of a task, if that is larger than the status date. In other words, still in the future. If so, then obviously it's not planned to have started yet, so the value should simply be 0. So we, as you can see, we almost just take these two items out of the equation to know whether it should either be 100%, it's in the past, or no, it's still coming in the future, the start date, so it's 0. If it's not one of these two, then we're left with something that we know is currently in progress. Right, so something like this, where it is not completed and its start date is not beyond the status date, because we've already tested that. All right, so if the answer to both of those is false, then it'll simply do this particular formula where it says, well, now we look at the date difference of the start date up to the status date. So it takes that, the whole duration from start date, baseline start date, up to the status date, divided by the total baseline duration of that particular task. So that's essentially it. And that is essentially the formula. So although this is a great formula and it's good to understand this as a basis, I'll show you why there's some serious shortcomings on this and why it doesn't really work. But it's important to understand as a first step, because the right formula actually builds on this as well. Right, so let's implement this formula. I'm going to go to custom fields. I'm going to go to the number option or the number field, and then I'm going to use number 6. Obviously you can use number 1 or whatever's available. In my particular schedule, those ones are not available, and that's the only reason why I'm going to use number 6. Then I'm going to click on the formula button, and I'm going to paste that formula that I've just shown you in this in the dialog box, and I'm going to click on OK. It's going to just warn you. You can click on OK again. Let's rename this one as well, that we just know what's going on. So I'm going to call this the planned percentage value, for instance. Click on OK. And then also make sure that the calculation for the task and the group summary rows also use the formula. So make sure both those boxes are ticked. The formula is correct, so you can click on OK. And I'm going to click on OK again. And then I'm just going to insert that value or the column that we've created now, the field, which is number 6. All right, and these are obviously now the percentages in a numerical form, and to convert that into something that's maybe a bit more readable, let's go to custom fields again. I'm going to use a text column now, and I'm going to use text 3. Let's rename it, and this one I'm just going to call percentage planned. I'm going to click on formula again, and then you can use this formula, which is just rounding the number 6. Remember, if you use a different number, just make sure that you have got the correct field there. If you've used number 1, that should be number 1. Multiplied by 100, obviously, because it's in it's in decimals now, and I want it in percentage. And then I just use this AND percentage function to add the percentage. Right, click on OK. It's again going to warn me. It's everything fine. And then the calculation, again, use the formula. And click on OK. All right, oh, and we have to just insert that. I'm going to right click there, insert. It's right here at the top, percentage planned. Right, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. So most videos that you'll find on the internet and most blogs that I've seen will profess that this is the way in which you can do planned percentage. But there's something wrong with this formula, and I'll show you now why I say that. If we go down, it looks quite accurate. If you look at what should have been completed, it gives us the 100%, and everything that's in the future there, it gives us a planned percentage of 0. But you will find that the way in which MS Project actually calculates their percentage complete is is slightly different. It does take into account the volume of tasks below a specific heading. All right, so for instance, let's do the following. Let's add a few tasks here, but before I do that, you can actually see the difference here as well. So if we look at percentage here, everything under this heading, the new pump room, everything happened as planned. We've got everything's on the baseline, 100% accurate. The same with the installation of the manholes. Yet, if we look at the percentage complete over here, in the heading, you can see the heading is 60% complete, actually, whereas the planned percentage is 70. Now, this is inaccurate because everything is as we have planned it. The same with this particular one. So we have planned percentage 36%, although the actual is only 35. Now that can't be because we've done everything 100% as planned. So these two values should actually be the same. All right, so that you can already see there's some errors in this formula. All right, now you'll see something interesting as well. So let's update these ones in a manner that they've also happened as planned. So we're going to just mark them on track. So they're 70% complete. All of these tasks happened as planned. Now you'll witness something interesting. So on the percentage complete side, my baseline on this heading, you'll see the baseline is now extended to include these tasks. And our actual percentage complete is 58%. However, the planned completion, percentage planned, still remains at 15%, which isn't correct because, again, these two should be equal to each other because everything happened as planned. And this is where we see that phenomenon that projects actually on its headings does a slightly different calculation than just a simple division. They actually take into account the volume of tasks. And if you go up to the top now, you'll see this also changed. Our percentage complete, the MSP value became 37%. Our planned percentage is also still 37%, which isn't accurate because we're clearly behind schedule. If you look at all these tasks that should have taken place here, and it didn't. So we are definitely behind schedule in total. So these two can't be correct. So that formula, guys, and I think a lot of people use it, is actually not quite correct. So we have to formulate a way or get a way in which we can actually use the weights of the tasks in relation to these headings. And that is the way to do it correctly. Right, so let me show you how to do that. All right, so this one is a bit more complicated, but we're going to use the same basis of formulas that we've used up to now. So you can go to custom fields again. I'm going to go to number, and I'm going to use number 7, 8, and 9. In this case, again, yours might differ. I'm going to click on number 7. Let's rename that to the baseline duration total. All right, and then let's click on number 8. I'm going to rename that to the baseline days completed. And I'll show you now what's the method in my madness. And then this one can now be the updated or corrected. Let's call that the updated percentage planned number, or let's just call it updated percentage plan. All right, this should be the correct one. Now in number 7, the baseline duration total, I'm going to use the following formula. And this first section is simply to ask whether if the duration is 0, it's to account for the milestone dates that we might have. So although they don't really carry any value in terms of the final completion, I've assigned a small value so that we don't have a divided by 0, and otherwise we're going to get errors on each and every one. So it's a very small percentage or weight that I add to it. I think it's actually a good thing because as we hit milestones, that also contribute towards completion. So it's actually not inaccurate, but it's just to account for that. And then I use that same formula that we've had previously just to look at the date difference between my estimated start date and the finish date. And remember, because Microsoft projects work in minutes. It accounts for all durations in minutes actually. I have to rework that divided by 60 divided by 8 hours per day to get that back to a daily value. So if your parameters in your options are different, then you might just want to go and look at that and adjust that accordingly. Mine is 8 hours, so everything's standard. So that's why I can use this formula. And I can click on OK. Click on OK. Now, very important here, instead of using the formula, I'm going to roll up to a sum. So again, I want this weighted average to calculate my percentage complete. So that's why I need to sum up everything. All right, it'll make sense in a moment. Then the baseline days completed, I'm going to use the following formula there, which is this. And here's that test again. So I'm just checking whether the estimated finish, whether that is smaller than the status date. If so, then I simply use the baseline duration as it is. However, if it has not started, if it's in the future, I again just make it 0 because it should not count as part of what we're doing now. And then again, if none of those two are there, then I just work out the in progress. So that's the project difference, the date difference between the baseline estimated start and the status date. And again, I do that conversion back to days. So that everything's in days. You don't actually have to do that. You can leave that out if you want to. I just did it because if you open up these columns, you can actually see what's happening in days and not in minutes. All right, so let's keep it at that for now. Click on OK. And then lastly, y'all, just remember on that baseline days, I also need to roll up to a sum. Okay, don't use the formula, roll up to a sum. And then lastly, number 9, this is again just a quick test that we're going to do in the formula. And then so it again just asks the status date, where we are, whether it's for something in the past, something in the future, or still. And if so, we simply assign 100% or 0%. If not, then I do this number 8 divided by number 7, which is just a calculation now for the percentage complete of that particular heading. So click on OK again. And here, instead of using the roll up, we can just use the formula. That's very important. So on number 9, just use the formula. And click on OK. And let's open up those columns quickly. So I'm going to insert column number. And let's do number 7. Right. So now what we're doing is we're working out the total number of activities, or that almost like a resource. We're looking at the total weight of tasks below a heading. It all tallies up to that heading. And then we do the calculation of percentage complete based on those volumes. So here you can see the updated percentage plan, which is now a better version of the planned percentage than this previous one, is 41%. I'm just going to change my text column now to display the value in this one, which is my number 9. So I'm going to go to custom fields again, and we are going to go to the text. There we go. And in that formula, I'm just going to change that to my number 9. Right, and this is the much more accurate. So you'll see if I close everything up back to this point. Now, if we look at, let's go and look at something like, this over here. So the new pump room, everything happened as planned. So it should be 35%, and it is 35%. Remember previously it was 36%, so it was inaccurate. If I go down now, look at this one, 60 and 60% on the heading. That's correct. This one as well, 58% actual. 58 planned, because that is exactly everything happened as planned. 70-70. So this is now taking that weight into consideration. And if you go to the top, you'll see, well, actually the planned is 41%. We should have been 41% complete, and we actually are 37% complete. So that is the corrected total and the corrected percentage planned. That's about it that I wanted to cover in this particular episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Looking forward to your comments, and good luck with your planning.